Hello and welcome to Lost Love Chronicles.
Dear listeners, before we get started, drop a quick hi in the comments and let us know where you're tuning in from. Also, if you have any suggestions for us to make the channel better, please let us know. Now let's start with the story. I'm Jack, 54 years old, and I've been a carpenter my whole life. Nothing fancy, just honest work with my hands. When my wife left us, Lena was only 8 back, then it was just me and her against the world. We didn't have much. We lived in this small, 2-bedroom rental on the edge of town, the kind of place where you could hear the neighbors arguing through the walls, and the roof leaked whenever it rained too hard. But damn it, I tried my best. I'd work extra jobs, take on weekend projects, whatever I had to do to make sure Lena had what she needed. Some nights, I'd come home with my hands so blistered and raw I could barely hold a fork. But even then, I'd sit down and help her with her homework. One night, after a long day, she looked up at me, tired but hopeful. "Dad, do you think I can go on the field trip next month? They said it costs $50. I sighed, rubbing my sore hands. "I'll figure it out, kiddo. Don't you worry." When her school asked for money for field trips or special programs, I'd pick up another side job. No way was my girl going to miss out because we didn't have the cash. Our place wasn't much, but I made sure she had her own room. I painted the walls pink at first, she insisted, then there was that boy band poster phase, and later, the weird dark phase with all the string lights she put up herself. "I want a bed that's different, Dad. Something unique," she said one day. So I built her a custom bed frame. Bookshelves, a desk for studying, I made it all with my own hands. We didn't have fancy vacations or designer clothes, but I made sure she never went hungry. There were always school supplies, and she always knew she was loved. I taught her to fish at the creek behind our neighborhood, showed her how to change a tire, fix a leaky faucet. Every Sunday morning, we'd make pancakes together, sitting around the kitchen table talking about the week ahead. "You're gonna ace that math test, Lena," I told her one Sunday, flipping a pancake. She smiled. "Thanks, Dad. I'm going to try." She was a smart kid, always bringing home good grades. I remember the pride I felt every time she showed me her report card. When she got into college, the first in our family to go, I nearly cried. I worked myself half to death to help cover what financial aid didn't. I lived on ramen and coffee so she could have a decent laptop. And I picked up night shifts at a warehouse just to send her a little extra cash each month. That's what dads do, right? You make it work. It was rough not having Lena around the house. The place felt too quiet, like something important was missing. I'd catch myself walking past her room and staring at all those little marks on the door frame, the ones where I'd measured her height as she grew up. Each scratch was like a snapshot of a moment we shared. But man, seeing her thrive in school made it all worth it. She'd call me, all excited, telling me about her classes, talking about stuff I barely understood: calculus, literature, biology, but I was so damn proud of her for learning it all. Then, during her junior year, things started to change. She called less and visited less during breaks. When she did come home, she seemed different. Like our little house suddenly wasn't good enough for her anymore. She was quieter, kind of uncomfortable. And she started talking differently too, using fancy words, and even correcting my grammar sometimes. One night over the phone, I heard it clear. "Dad, you really shouldn't say it like that. It's who, not whom, remember?" I chuckled and said, all right, smarty pants. I'm trying here." I figured it was just part of growing up, getting educated, and stepping into a world that I couldn't really give her. Then she met that dude. I'll call him Noah. He came into the picture during her senior year. Some kid from a wealthy family with a big house in the suburbs, private school, fancy car, the whole deal. The first time Lena brought him by our place, I could tell right away he was uncomfortable. The way he looked around like he might catch something from our secondhand furniture. Barely touched the roast I'd made specially for the occasion, either. "Here, Noah, try some," I said, carving the meat. He glanced at his watch more than once, clearly itching to leave. After that, Lena mostly met me at diners or coffee shops when she wanted to see me, and stopped bringing him around. I didn't push it. I guess she was embarrassed by our modest living, and that stung more than I wanted to admit. But I wanted her to be happy more than anything. So when she called me out of the blue about a year after graduation to say she was engaged, I was surprised, but I tried to be happy for her. She sounded so excited on the phone. "Dad, Noah proposed. Can you believe it? And look at this ring." She giggled. "It's huge, Dad, like a real diamond. His family has money, and I'm telling you, everything's going to be different now." Then came the day she stopped by the house, all dressed up in clothes that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She was fidgeting nervously with that engagement ring, this massive diamond that probably cost more than my truck. I offered her some coffee in her favorite chipped mug, the one with the cartoon cat I'd saved from her childhood. She took it quietly, but when she started talking about the wedding, she didn't quite meet my eyes. I smiled, thinking she might ask if I could help make something for the ceremony. Maybe an arch or some custom signs. My mind was already turning over what would I'd use. Then she said, quickly, without looking at me, Noah's father will be walking me down the aisle. I just stared at my coffee mug, halfway to my lips. Come again? I asked. She shifted in her seat, clearly uncomfortable. His family is very traditional, and his father is an important figure in their community. We've discussed it, and it would be more appropriate than having your actual father do it. I tried to keep my voice steady. I asked, more appropriate than me? She looked everywhere, but at me, the floor, the walls. Dad, there's something else. Her voice was quieter now. Noah's family, they don't exactly know about you. That hit me like a sledgehammer. What do you mean, they don't know about me? I asked. She twisted her ring nervously. I told them my parents were both gone, that I was raised by distant relatives who aren't in the picture anymore. I put my mug down before I dropped it. You told them I was dead. Not exactly dead. Just not around, she said, finally looking at me. Her expression was pleading. You have to understand, Dad. These people are different. They come from money, from influence. They wouldn't understand this. She gestured vaguely around my living room, the secondhand furniture, the coffee table I'd built from reclaimed wood. I sat there, trying to process it that my daughter was ashamed of me, ashamed of our life together. So ashamed she erased me completely. 20 years of sacrifices, working my fingers to the bone to give her a good life. And now she was pretending I didn't exist just to impress some rich people. So what am I supposed to do on your wedding day? My voice sounded strange, like it belonged to someone else. Pretend I don't exist? Watch from the parking lot. She had the decency to look uncomfortable. I was hoping you'd understand. Maybe you could come as a distant family friend. Just not, not as my dad. Something broke inside me that day. All those years of putting her first, making sure she knew she was loved despite not having much, and she was willing to deny my existence to impress rich strangers. I didn't yell, didn't throw things. I just looked at my daughter, this stranger in designer clothes sitting in my living room, and said, I think you should leave now. Her eyes widened. Dad, please. I need some time. I stood up slowly and said, this is a lot to take in. She didn't say another word, just grabbed her things and left. I went straight to my workshop and built a rocking chair until 4 a.m., trying to work out my feelings through my hands like I always have. That night, I cried for the first time since her mother left us. Not just because of what she'd said, but because somewhere along the way, I'd lost my daughter and hadn't even noticed it happening. The weeks before the wedding were probably the longest of my life. I kept going back and forth, mad as hell one moment, then overwhelmed with a deep sadness I just couldn't shake. 1 minute, I was determined to respect Lena's wishes and stay away from her fancy wedding with all those rich people. The next, I was so angry I couldn't see straight, thinking about showing up and telling everyone exactly who I was. I tried to keep busy in my workshop, taking on extra projects just to keep my mind off things. My buddy Jeff kept asking what was wrong. Man, you look like you haven't slept in days. And he was right. I probably hadn't. Lena tried calling a few times, but I wasn't ready to talk. What was I supposed to say? Sure, honey, I understand you're ashamed of me. No problem. Her messages got more desperate as the wedding got closer. Please understand. I hope you're not still upset. I need to finalize the guest list. Like the real issue was the head count for the caterer, not the fact she was denying I existed. Finally, I texted back, I won't mess up your big day. Don't worry about me. Short and simple. She sent back a bunch of heart emojis, completely missing that I was barely keeping it together. That night, I sat in my workshop, staring at the scraps of wood on my bench. My hands moved on their own, carving like they always had when I needed to quiet my mind. I wasn't sure why I was doing it at first. Maybe habit. Maybe hope. By the time the sun started creeping through the shop window, I was holding a wooden keepsake box, solid oak, polished smooth, with her name engraved on the lid in the same handwriting I used to leave notes in her lunchbox when she was little. Inside, I'd lined it with velvet and placed something else. A letter. Lena, no matter where life takes you, you were never unwanted, never unloved. I hope this brings you more joy than pain someday. Dad. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't a plea. Just the truth. I wasn't the one walking her down the aisle, but the least I could do was let her know that somewhere in this world, someone loved her without conditions, without status, without expectations. The next morning, I drove to the venue, handed the box to the concierge at the front desk, and left. No name, no return address, just a gift from a father who had already lost his daughter. The actual wedding day, I stayed home. Tried to work on some projects, but couldn't focus enough to use power tools safely. I almost took off a finger with the table saw before I decided to just sit on the porch and stare at nothing. As I sat there, I kept wondering where I went wrong. Was it because I couldn't give her fancy vacations and designer clothes? Did I mess up in my part as a dad by working so much to pay the bills that I missed something important? Or was she just embarrassed by my rough hands and simple life? That night, around 8 o'clock, my phone blew up with messages and calls not from Lena, but from Mike, this buddy of mine who works maintenance at the fancy hotel where they were having the reception. We've done some contract jobs together over the years, fixing stuff around the hotel. Dude, you're not going to believe what just happened, he said when I finally picked up. According to Mike, everything was going according to plan until right before the ceremony. The guests were all seated in this fancy garden setup. Then there was this long, awkward delay. People started whispering, checking their watches, wondering what was going on. The wedding planner came out looking stressed and announced there would be a slight delay. Then the bridal suite door burst open, and Lena stormed out in her wedding dress, mascara running down her face, looking absolutely furious. Turns out Noah's father had somehow discovered the truth about me. Mike wasn't sure how it all came out. Maybe they hired a private investigator. Maybe someone from Lena's college days recognized her and said something. However it happened, right before Noah was supposed to walk her down the aisle, his father confronted her. "I won't be party to this deception," Mike said. He told her. "You lied about your entire background. Your father is alive, a carpenter living across town. What else have you been lying about? Are you just after my son's money?" He flat out refused to walk her down the aisle, said he couldn't in good conscience give away a bride who would build her marriage on such a fundamental lie. He called her a gold digger right to her face, in front of her bridesmaids. The ceremony got delayed almost an hour while everyone scrambled to figure out what to do. Eventually, Lena walked down the aisle alone, trying to keep her head high while everyone whispered and stared. Mike said, "You could practically feel the tension in the air. All these rich people suddenly wondering who this girl really was." And Noah? He just stood at the altar looking embarrassed and annoyed, like her humiliation was an inconvenience to him. He didn't even step forward to meet her halfway or offer support, just stood there fidgeting with his cufflinks while she made the longest walk of her life alone. When Mike finished telling me what happened, I felt nothing. Not happiness that she'd been caught in her lie. Not satisfaction that karma had come around. Just this empty feeling in my chest. This wasn't how I wanted things to go. I never wanted her to be humiliated. I just wanted her to be proud of where she came from, of the life we'd built together despite all the challenges. I thanked Mike for letting me know and hung up, wondering if I should reach out to her. Before I could decide, my phone rang again. It was Lena, and man, she was pissed. "How could you?" she screamed, her voice cracking with emotion. "How could you?" "What?" I asked, genuinely confused. "Don't play dumb. You told them. You told Noah's family about yourself. You ruined everything." I sat there stunned by the accusation. "I didn't tell anyone anything," I said calmly. "I haven't spoken to a single person from Noah's family ever." "Liar," she shrieked. "His father knew everything, every detail. He humiliated me in front of everyone, called me a gold digger, said I wasn't good enough for their family. And then, she laid it all at my feet. It's all your fault." I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice calm. "Listen to me. I didn't do this. I promised I wouldn't mess with your wedding, and I kept that promise. I haven't left the house all day." Her voice shot back, sharp and demanding. "Then how did he find out?" "No one else knew." "No one," I said, honest and steady. "I don't know," I admitted. "Maybe he did a background check. Rich people do that kind of thing, don't they? Especially when someone's marrying into their family." She wasn't listening. In her mind, I was the villain, the bad guy who deliberately ruined her big day, her chance at joining this wealthy family. No matter what I said, she spat. "I will never forgive you for this." Her voice went cold, hard. "Never." Then the line went dead. I tried calling her back a couple of times, but she blocked my number. I sent a few texts that went unanswered. I even thought about driving to her apartment, but what was the point? She wasn't going to believe me. She needed someone to blame, and I was the easiest target. That night, I couldn't sleep. Kept replaying our last conversation over and over in my head. How had it come to this? Somewhere along the way, that little girl who used to run into my arms when I got home from work had turned into someone ashamed of me. Someone who could believe I deliberately hurt her. That realization cut deeper than any words she'd thrown at me. The next morning, I saw the story had made it to the local gossip pages. Nothing huge, just a little blurb about drama at the Henderson Mitchell wedding, with vague details about some revelation causing a delay. But that was enough. Lena's humiliation wasn't just private anymore. It was public. I thought about reaching out again, offering support, being the dad who fixes things. But the truth was, I couldn't fix this. And she didn't want me to try. So I stayed away. Gave her the space she seemed to want. Tried to accept that maybe our relationship was over for good. About a week after the wedding, I started hearing from mutual friends and distant relatives. Apparently, Lena was telling anyone who would listen that I had deliberately ruined her wedding out of spite. That I was jealous of her marrying into money. That I couldn't stand to see her rise above her upbringing. I didn't know whether to be angry or heartbroken. Then one evening, Ella, Lena's childhood friend, called me. Her voice was hesitant, uncomfortable. "I thought you should know what's being said," she said quietly. "What exactly is she saying?" I asked, my stomach knotting up. Ella took a breath. "She's saying that you've always been jealous of her success, that you wanted to keep her in her place, that you told Noah's father she was just after his money." I sat there, phone in hand, trying to process it all. My own daughter, the girl I raised alone since she was 8, the one I sacrificed everything for, was dragging my name through the mud just to save face. "There's more," Ella added reluctantly. "She's reconnected with her mom." That hit me like a punch to the gut. Serena, my ex, the woman who walked out on us when Lena was little, barely sent birthday cards, never paid child support. She had basically abandoned our daughter to chase some guy off to California. And now, suddenly, she was back in the picture. "How long has this been going on?" I asked. "A few months, I think, before the wedding," Ella replied softly. "She didn't tell you?" "No, she sure hadn't." Another secret. Another lie. After that, I tried calling Lena a few times, but she'd blocked my number. I sent emails, but they went unanswered. Finally, I decided to drive over to her apartment, thinking maybe a face-to-face conversation could clear things up. Big mistake. She opened the door just enough to glare at me. "What are you doing here?" "We need to talk, Lena," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "These rumors you're spreading, they're not true." She cut me off, eyes blazing. "You ruined everything. You couldn't stand to see me happy, could you? Couldn't stand to see me become something more than a carpenter's daughter." "That's not true," I said quietly. "I never contacted Noah's family. I would never." Her voice dropped to a cold, bitter whisper. "Mom was right about you all along." Those words stopped me cold. "Your mother?" I asked, incredulous. Before she could answer, a tall, thin woman appeared behind Lena. It took me a second to recognize her. Serena. 20 years had changed her, but not for the better. She had that hard look, the kind that comes from living rough, like life had knocked the softness right out of her. "Jack," she said with a fake smile, still playing the martyr, "I see." I ignored her, focusing on my daughter instead. "Lena, please, whatever your mother's been telling you." "She's been telling me the truth," Lena cut in sharply. "How you drove her away. How you always tried to control everything. How you couldn't stand for either of us to have our own lives." I stared at her, genuinely speechless. Serena had abandoned us, left me to raise our daughter alone while she chased boyfriends across the country. Now she'd somehow rewritten history, and Lena was swallowing it whole. "That's not what happened," I finally managed to say. "You know that's not what happened." "I was a child," Lena replied coldly. "I only knew what you told me. I only saw what you wanted me to see." I looked from her to Serena and back again, realizing this was pointless. Whatever story they had woven together, they were committed to it. "I'm sorry you feel that way," I said quietly. "When you're ready to talk about what really happened, I'll be here." As I turned to leave, Serena called after me. "Actually, Jack, we do need to discuss something. The settlement." I stopped and turned back, suspicion creeping in. "What settlement?" She smiled, that same calculating smile I remembered all too well from the divorce. "For the emotional distress you caused Lena by ruining her wedding. For the reputational damage. We've been talking to a lawyer." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You're suing me? Your own father?" Lena stood firm beside her mother. "You did this, Dad. You cost me my marriage, my future, my relationship with Noah's family. There have to be consequences." I just shook my head and walked away. There was nothing left to say. 3 days later, the legal threat came through official channels, a demand letter from some fancy downtown law firm. They claimed I was guilty of intentional infliction of emotional distress and defamation of character, resulting in the loss of financial security and social standing. They wanted $75,000 in damages. I took the letter to my lawyer, an old friend since high school. He read it, then let out a low whistle. "This is garbage," he said bluntly, "but garbage that could still cost you a lot to fight. What should I do?" He sighed. "Honestly, send a firm response denying everything. Make it clear you'll fight it all the way and hope they back down." My lawyer's words echoed in my mind. "My guess is this is Serena's idea, not Lena's. She always did see you as a meal ticket." I nodded, bitter memories surfacing how Serena had tried to go after my future earnings during the divorce, even though she was the one who cheated and left. "And Jack," my lawyer added, "you might want to update your will and business paperwork. Make sure Lena doesn't have any claim to your assets or business if things get uglier." That night, I sat alone at the kitchen table, a legal pad before me, trying to wrap my head around everything. My own daughter, the one I'd given everything for, was now threatening to sue me, based on lies. With a heavy heart, I made the hardest decision of my life. I had to protect myself legally, financially, and emotionally. I couldn't keep reaching out to someone who didn't want to be reached. I couldn't keep loving someone who seemed to hate me. The next morning, I began cutting ties. I changed my will, removing Lena as a beneficiary. I updated all my business paperwork to make sure she had no claim on anything. I changed the locks on my house and workshop, and I blocked her on social media. It felt like a death. The death of the relationship I thought we had. The death of the future I'd imagined for us. But sometimes, you have to accept when something is truly broken. The lawsuit threat hung over my head like a dark cloud for months. My lawyer handled every interaction with Lena's lawyer, keeping me at arm's length from the mess. Don't contact her directly, he warned. Everything needs to go through proper channels now. Living in the same small town as my daughter, yet treating her like a hostile stranger that was its own kind of hell. I'd see her car outside the grocery store and wait in the parking lot until she left. Once, I spotted her and Serena having lunch at my favorite diner. I just turned around and walked out even though I was starving after a long morning of work. The business was my only refuge. I threw myself into it, taking on more projects than I could handle 12-hour days, 6 days a week. Physical exhaustion was the only thing that let me sleep at night. About 6 months after the wedding disaster, Peter called with news. They're dropping the lawsuit threat, Peter said over the phone. Turns out their case was as flimsy as we thought. They had zero evidence you contacted Noah's family. I nodded, but the relief I expected didn't come. Instead, there was this hollow emptiness inside me. That's good, I said quietly. There's more, Peter continued. Lena and Noah are officially divorced. The prenup held up. She didn't get anything. I was speechless. Part of me felt sorry for her dreams of a wealthy lifestyle shattered. But another part? It was hard not to think she'd brought it all on herself, with her lies and pretenses. Peter's next words caught me off guard. Serena's moved into Lena's apartment. Apparently, they're roommates now. That explained a lot. Serena, always so good at twisting situations to her advantage, now had a place to stay, probably draining whatever little resources Lena had left. Life, of course, went on. I dated a bit not because I was ready, but because my friends insisted I needed to get back out there. That's how I met Cora, at a home improvement workshop I was teaching at the community center. She was recently divorced, had 2 teenage kids, and was trying to learn some DIY skills to save money on home repairs. From the start, we clicked. Cora was straightforward, unpretentious, and had a laugh that could lighten any mood. After a few dates, she invited me over for dinner to meet Joel and Mira, her kids 14 and 16. They were nice kids, a little wary of their mom dating, but polite enough. Cora and I took things slow weekend dates, family movie nights with her kids, gradually building something real. She never pushed me for more than I was ready to give. It was clear she understood I was still healing from everything with Lena. One night, about a year after meeting Cora, we were sitting on my porch swing after dinner. The air was calm, and she spoke casually. Joel and Mira have been asking when you're going to move in. I blinked, surprised. They have. She nodded with a smile. They like having you around. So do I, for that matter. I looked at her, feeling warmth spread through me. I like being around, too. You 3 are the best thing that's happened to me in a long time. Cora gave me that knowing look, always able to hear the things left unsaid. But I sighed and shook my head. I'm still dealing with all this Lena stuff. Still trying to figure out how a father and daughter end up so completely estranged. I worry I'm bringing too much baggage. She squeezed my hand gently. Everyone our age has baggage. Jack, Cora had said once, I've got an ex-husband who's consistently disappointing our kids and a stack of credit card debt from trying to keep the house after the divorce. You've got a daughter who made bad choices. Neither of us is coming to this relationship fresh and perfect. She was right, of course. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I was ready for this next step. So, I moved in with Cora and the kids. They converted their garage into a small workshop for my personal projects, and I started teaching Joel some basic woodworking skills. Life found a new rhythm, a new kind of happiness I hadn't expected to find again. About 8 months after I moved in with Cora, I ran into Ella at the hardware store. How's she doing? I asked, unable to help myself. Ella hesitated. Not great. Serena took off again a few months back. Apparently, she ran up a bunch of credit card debt in Lena's name, then disappeared. That sounded like Serena. Where's Lena working now? Some receptionist job at a dentist's office. Barely covers her rent. Ella replied, looking uncomfortable. She asks about you sometimes when she's been drinking. I didn't know what to do with that information. Part of me still cared, still wanted to help. But the other part remembered the lawsuit, the awful lies, the deliberate cruelty. Tell her I'm doing okay, I finally said. That's all. A week later, after a lumber run, I came back to the shop and found Lena sitting in her car in the parking lot. My first instinct was to turn around and avoid another confrontation. But something made me park and get out. She got out too, looking nervous. She'd lost weight not in a healthy way. Her clothes were simple now, a far cry from the designer outfit she'd worn during her time with Noah. She looked older than her years. "Can we talk?" she asked. "Is your lawyer aware you're here?" I replied, my voice cold. She winced. "I fired them months ago. That was Mom's idea, not mine." A lot of things seemed to have been her mom's idea. She didn't argue with that. "I made mistakes. Huge ones, I know that," she said quietly. "What do you want, Lena?" I crossed my arms, watching her squirm. I want to apologize for everything, for lying about you, for the lawsuit, for believing Mom's version of things." I watched her as she took a shaky breath, her fingers twisting around the strap of her bag like a nervous tick. "And I want to ask if there's any way you'd consider giving me another chance," she said. I studied her face, trying to gauge whether this was real or just another performance. "Why now?" She looked down, her voice small. "I have nothing left. No money, no prospects. Mom cleaned me out and disappeared. I lost my apartment last month. I'm staying on Ella's couch." Then, almost as if she couldn't bear to say it louder, she added, "I thought maybe I could work for you. Learn the business. Like we talked about, before everything went wrong." I let out a bitter laugh, sharp and hollow. "So let me get this straight. You erased me from your life to impress some rich folks. Sued me for ruining your wedding. Dragged my name through the dirt. And now that you've hit rock bottom, you want a fresh start from me. Just like that." She flinched like I'd slapped her. "Dad, please," she whispered. "I know I messed up." I shook my head. "You don't get it, do you? You sound just like her." Her head snapped up. "Who? Your mother?" I let the words hang in the air between us, heavy and full of everything we never said. I watched the realization hit her, the way her expression twisted into something between guilt and fear. She used people when it suited her, left when it got hard, lied to cover up her own selfish choices. And when she ran out of options, she came crawling back, expecting everyone to forget what she did. And now here you are, standing in front of me, asking me to do the same thing. Tears welled up in her eyes. "That's not fair. I'm not like her." "Then prove it," I said firmly. "Stand on your own 2 feet. Fix what you broke. But you're not dragging me down with you again." She let out a shaky breath, wiping at her eyes. "I don't know how." I sighed, the weight of everything pressing against my chest. "Figure it out, like the rest of us do." She stared at me for a long moment, something breaking in her eyes. Then her hand darted into her bag. She pulled something out and threw it hard at my feet. The wooden box. The one I made for her wedding. "You really thought this would fix everything?" she spat, her voice shaking with rage and pain. I bent down and picked it up. A crack had formed across the lid. "Didn't expect you to throw it," I said quietly. Her hands clenched into fists. "Do you know how humiliating it was? For a second, I thought you'd actually shown up. But no, just this sad little box with some note, like I was supposed to have some big emotional epiphany. Did you expect me to break down crying?" I exhaled. "No, just wanted you to have something from me, something real," I said, my voice lower than I intended, steady only because I'd had months to rehearse this feeling. She swallowed hard, glancing away like she couldn't stand to look at me. "You didn't even read the letter, did you?" I set the cracked box aside carefully. "You raised me," I said, meeting her eyes again, "and now you're mad I didn't." She blinked rapidly, her mouth tightening as she fought the tears she didn't want me to see. "You should have fought for me." "I did," I said quietly. "For 20 years. Hardest when you didn't need me." Her chin trembled. She had no comeback for that. I reached into my wallet and pulled out a few 20 small, wrinkled bills. Held them out. "This is all I can offer you now. A little help while you find your own way." She stared at the money, jaw clenched so tight I thought she might break her own teeth. "I don't want your charity." "It's not charity," I said simply. "It's a choice, just like you made yours." She stood there, frozen, torn. Then, finally, with fingers that shook, she took the money. "No thank you." Just shame and silence. As she turned to leave, I called out, "Lena." She stopped, but didn't turn around. "What are you going to do when the next rich guy lets you down?" Her shoulders tensed. For a second I thought she'd say something, shout back, scream, cry, but she didn't. She just opened her car door, got in, and drove away. I stood in the parking lot for a few seconds longer, then laughed to myself, not out of joy, but out of some strange sense of finality. Maybe peace. I turned back to my workshop, picked up a piece of unfinished wood from the bench, felt its rough edges in my palm, and got back to work. That was something I could still fix. That night, I sat across from Cora on the couch. The kids had gone upstairs. I told her everything, every word, every look, every small moment when I thought maybe, just maybe, things could have gone differently. She listened, like she always did, no interruptions, no quick fixes, just space to let it all out. When I was done, she asked, "So, are you okay with how you left things?" I stared at the ceiling, fingers laced behind my head. "I don't know if okay is the right word," I said slowly. "It sucks. It really sucks. But yeah, I think it was the right thing to do. She's got to figure things out on her own. I can't keep being the guy she comes to only when she's drowning. Cora reached over and squeezed my hand. For what it's worth, I think you handled it the best way you could. You didn't slam the door, but you didn't let her walk all over you either. That's not easy. Yeah, well, I said, letting out a breath. Nothing about this has been easy. Before she could respond, Joel and Mira burst into the room mid-argument, something about whose turn it was to do dishes or pick the movie. I wasn't sure. I just shook my head, letting their voices wash over me. Joel was sprawled on one side of me. Mira, half distracted but still ready to argue, sat on the other side of me, her fingers flying across her phone keyboard as she typed furiously. Every few seconds, she'd toss in a perfectly timed eye roll or a sarcastic quip to keep the argument going. Joel, meanwhile, was slouched deep into the couch cushions, voice raised in mock outrage. "It was your turn to pick last week, Mira," he said, arms flailing for emphasis. "Yeah, and you fell asleep 10 minutes in," she shot back without even looking up. "Doesn't count." Cora leaned against the kitchen counter, arms folded, watching them with this amused little smirk that said she'd seen it all before and wasn't going to get involved unless blood was drawn. I sat between the two of them, pretending to referee, but really just soaking it all in. Joel nudged me. "Back me up here, Jack." I held up my hands. "No way. I value my life too much to take sides." Cora chuckled from the other side of the room. "Smart man." As the two of them bickered over streaming rights and whose movie taste was more tragic, something in me shifted. Something quiet, but powerful. I looked at them, Joel with his exaggerated outrage, Mira with her rapid-fire wit and quiet, watchful eyes, Cora, relaxed and glowing in the soft kitchen light, and me somehow, improbably, in the center of it all. Something clicked. Family isn't always who you're born to. Sometimes, it's the people who show up, who stay, who let you be yourself without expecting you to prove your worth or earn your place. It's the ones who argue over dumb movies and steal the last slice of pizza and still make you laugh when you think there's nothing left in you to laugh with. I didn't know if Lena would ever be part of my life again. Maybe one day, years from now, we'd sit down and have a real conversation without bitterness or blame, without the weight of everything that went wrong. Or maybe we never would. But for the first time in a long time, I wasn't holding my breath waiting for it to happen. Because right here, in this messy, imperfect, loud little family, I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.